Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Kay Suthar. Hey guys, I've got another amazing episode for you on our podcast, Make Your Mark podcast. Now, we've got an amazing guest. Her name is Laurie Potts. She is a public speaking coach, career coach, and corporate communications trainer. Laurie has done training for Facebook, coached TED Talk and keynote speakers, and helped them craft their message and improve their presence on stage and in the boardroom. Now, as a recovering insecure woman, she gets to help transform women's lives through her own lived experiences of discrimination and overcoming self-sabotaging behaviors that she was conditioned to have during her childhood. She prides herself in creating positive change by coaching teams and individuals to become their best selves while staying true to who they are. Please put your hands together for the amazing Laurie Potts. Oh my goodness. I am super excited to have you on the show here, Laurie.
Oh, thank you, Kay. And that was such a warm introduction. I appreciate it.
No worries. And so before we get into the nitty-gritty, Laurie, because we are going to be talking about, public speaking and kind of building the confidence and the right ways to go about it and, selling on stage and all that good stuff that we all want to know, right? But I want to make it very clear to our listeners that this doesn't happen overnight, although a lot of people think it does.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would love for you to share with us a little bit about your journey and how you got to this point in business.
Yeah, that's a great question. And you're right. A lot of people think that success for an entrepreneur kind of happens overnight. Sometimes you might hear those stories, but really that's very much the exception. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of persistence. It's months and years of business building and just having the grit to keep with it when sometimes you just feel like it's all overwhelming. So I started coaching about 6 years ago while I worked in corporate. So I really got into it because my supervisor recognized that I was able to easily bridge that gap between his intent and impact. So I didn't know what coaching was, right? The only term coaching I knew as a child was, a soccer coach or sports coach.
Right.
But what I realized once I knew what coaching was that I've always naturally been that type of person. I've always been able to bridge that gap between a person's intent and impact ever since I was young. So, for example, when I was 6 years old, it's just an example of like the level of professionalism that it's always been naturally there for me. Mm-hmm. When I was 6, it was the first time I ever had to make a phone call to ask my friend to come play. So I call them and I have to leave a message because they don't answer. And I say, hi, this is so-and-so. If Ashley or whatever her name was wants to play, I would love to get together today or tomorrow. If you can give me a call back, this is my phone number. Again, this is Laurie. My phone number is whatever it is, like very professional. And right. I just was copying like what I'd seen secretaries or other professionals do on these TV shows my parents watched. So
wait, hold a second. What intrigued you, right? What really kind of caught your attention from these TV shows that you wanted to replicate how they were acting on TV? What was it about that?
Yeah, I honestly don't remember that kind of detail from when I was young. I believe it was just like what they could accomplish, right? And it's acting. So, seeing that they had that charisma, that power, that ability to hold people's attention, hold their, own their power and assertiveness, and then get something as a result. So I think that's probably a lot of what it was. And I observed that in the business world as well. So it was just always very natural for me. And I grew up in a very chauvinistic household. My mom was very subordinate. And I was just the exact opposite, just born that way, very assertive, very naturally owning my power. And so when I went into corporate, even though I naturally recognized that I was able to bridge this gap between a person's intent and impact, and I got that feedback, I still had all of these self-sabotaging behaviors that communicated subordination that I'd learned from my mother, right? We mimic our family of origin and how other people act around us. And so these nonverbal cues, how I spoke, the slouching that I did when a man that was similar to my father walked into the room, because I automatically was conditioned to don't assert your power to a man in a position of authority, because I grew up in such a chauvinistic home. So I had to unlearn all of these behaviors. And once I realized the real, actual, hard discrimination that women face in the workplace, I wasn't fully convinced of that when I was doing my undergrad, because I grew up in a very conservative environment. So equality, those types of principles just weren't taught in my home. And so when I went into corporate and I realized this actually is a real problem, the things I hear on the news, it's actually these stories, it's very limiting. So I did lots of research on what it was that was killing my credibility. And even when I had that knowledge, I still noticed oh my gosh, I'm still doing these things. It's because my brain was conditioned to believe you won't be safe, you won't be accepted, you won't be loved, you won't be worthy if you assert your power. And that was just my childhood conditioning. And as a lot of women experience, I mean, not everyone has, childhood trauma in the same way that I do, but we're conditioned by society, by our family of origin, by other people to act in certain ways. And so frequently for women, it's to act subordinate and to be warm and to be, and that's fine. Being warm is fine, but there's, you also have to act assertively enough to be seen as a leader. If you're only ever acting warm, then, or you're always, communicating lack of confidence with your posture, or, speaking too softly, then you're not going to get where you want to go, if where you want to go is leadership, if where you want to go is a promotion to where you can influence more people. So so learned all that in corporate, but I still recognize I a hard time with executing this, even though I could recognize myself that gap. I'm how do I get there? Because I'm so hard conditioned, my brain thinking that I have to act in these ways. So
I guess you had to work with your mindset, right? Because of such a hardcore conditioning you've had growing up. And in fact, that even raises so many questions, right? But how did you, first of all, let me ask you this. When you realized, right, what type of upbringing you had, because you're not going to know as a child, but as you get older, right, you're going to understand it a little bit more. And if you don't want to answer this question, then just let me know, right? But how did that make you feel when you realized how hard the conditioning was growing up?
Bitter, probably, that's a really good word to describe it. Angry, and just frustrated that, these other women, yes, we're all conditioned in some way, but not everyone as severely. And so I'm I had all of this placed upon me, right? Because people place their own insecurities and expectations on others. And now I have to, and I had already been in hundreds of hours of therapy as a child, but as an adult, now I have to rewire my entire brain from complex PTSD to my brain saying, you literally will not be physically, psychologically, or emotionally safe if you say, yes, I can do this. I can get results for clients. Yes, I can change and transform someone's life, all of which I've done as an entrepreneur. And I had started to do in corporate, right? People gave me feedback saying, oh my gosh, you helped me see that when we discussed that we were going to do this presentation in a certain way or communicate this to my team, and then we came back and talked about how it went. Oh, I actually didn't execute it on it the way that I thought. So I already knew how to do it, but it was a matter of feeling safe, feeling that I would be accepted, that people would, give me positive feedback by acting differently than I had before. And if you're going to go into entrepreneurship, you're going to have to start acting differently than you did before, likely, unless you've, already been a leader, already been an expert, then you have to be willing to confidently pitch yourself and say those things. So I can absolutely go through like the steps and processes that I went through to build that confidence and power. I'd love to share that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So the biggest thing that I hear you saying is you already knew that things had to change, right? And you were willing to make those steps, right? Create those steps, knowing that you had to change your mindset, your habits, and everything that you believed growing up, right, had to change. If you wanted to become this entrepreneur that you were just, you so wanted to be. And so the minute you had the willingness to want to make that change, what kind of steps did you put in place to keep growing that and build the confidence, self-esteem, right, to become the entrepreneur that you are today?
Yeah. So I started to go full on into my business in 2020. I was done in marketing. I got let go, and I was just like, I'm tired of being trying to be someone I'm not. I never wanted to go into marketing. It was just the level of experience that I had during my undergrad. Like that's the majority of what I did. So it was easier to get a job. And my husband got a job in an area where there weren't a lot of opportunities for corporate training or organizational development, which is where I really wanted to go. Like we live in a fairly rural area. Some people might not think Idaho Falls, Idaho is rural, but they have less than 100,000 people in their city. And I grew up in the Phoenix area, which has millions. So there just aren't as many career opportunities here. So I got into marketing, but once I got let go for, one of the multi times that I was, but that's when it happened in 2020. And I was just like, I'm so effing done being like trying to prove myself in corporate, trying to get where I want to go and do what I want to do when it doesn't bring me joy. And I'm sick and tired of like proving myself to these other people who are not very competent in the first place. Like the manager had no desire. He was like the most introverted person I'd ever met. And he just had no desire to mentor me or be anytime I asked him a question, he'd put me off to someone else. He'd say, this person can answer your question instead of him training me. And so there was just like so many gaps, but I wasn't allowed to advise because I was in a lower level position. So once I decided to go into entrepreneurship, I was like, this is scary. Right. So I decided to get on with a resume writing company first and to get, clients and just to build I don't think I did it intentionally, to build my confidence. It was just a step that I knew I could take where I already had that skill. So when I did TED Talk coaching about 6 years ago, one of the speakers asked me to help her advance her career, rewrite her resume. So I'd already done a little bit of that. And I decided, okay, this is what I'll do. I enjoy resume writing. So I got on with a resume writing company. I don't recommend them to anyone the one that I worked at, and I saw this across the board at a lot of job descriptions, they don't really require you to have a communications degree or an HR background.
Ooh.
And I have a communications degree. I'm like, and we had a Slack channel where people could ask questions for the business, and we were all independent contractors. But like the people asking these questions, I'm like, you should already know what an applicant tracking system is if you are writing resumes for people. Like, and I had done lots of research about like when I graduated years and years ago about how to find a job, like read the experts so I could be really effective in finding a job right after I graduated. And I did, had a job day after I graduated. But I didn't want to try and advise people because I was conditioned to believe, oh, you need, half a century of experience before you could ever advise anyone.
Right.
Or you need to be had a mentor for 10 years telling you exactly what to do in order to go and help other people. And that's just not true. Like, it is 2023. You can go learn anything on your own, or talk to people, do 15-minute informational interviews, get the resources that you need, and, also use your natural gifts and expertise, and then start doing whatever it is you want to be doing as an entrepreneur. And like, I don't believe in fake it till you make it. So that is not what I am advising.
Right.
Upskill. You need to upskill if you want to be able to help other people. So, like I said, I did lots of research. I stay up to date on the experts, on the books that just came out that month, following, the people who do regular research on communication, on public speaking. So I'm advising my clients on the most accurate, up-to-date, and research-based and evidence-based approach. I'm a strong believer in an evidence-based approach. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have to be willing to do the research and to stay up to date if you want to advise your clients as accurately as possible. So
absolutely. Oh my goodness. There's so many things just there that you've mentioned, right? Like, first of all, you're saying the mentoring, and you weren't getting the coaching from, your managers and stuff like that. And I went through something very similar, but the biggest thing that I witnessed myself from coming from corporate world to the business world is they're very different worlds altogether, right? In the corporate world, you don't find many mentors or coaches that are willing to train their team, right? They might have
very competitive. Everyone's like, no, I have to be focused on my own development. No, this isn't always the case, but I found, just from an entrepreneur perspective, so many people are willing to support each other. We're all struggling. We're all trying to build our businesses. Whereas in corporate, oh, I have to be solely focused on my own development. I can't mentor other people, or I can't be their friend or try to promote them, or like what it is that they're doing, because then I won't get the promotion. And that's not the case at every corporation. I'm just making a generalization, but just the biggest difference in the amount of support that I get as an entrepreneur. I do so many collaborations with other people like you, and so many others. And it's just the most supportive environment I've ever been in.
Yeah, I mean, that was the biggest thing. Just like yourself, I didn't know what a coach was. The only coach I knew was like a fitness coach, right? Or your karate coach, or, and I'm like, coach, mentor, like, what is that? Isn't that the same thing kind of thing? But it is a completely different world. And it's the most supportive world to be in, to build your business, to be an entrepreneur, that you just don't get in the corporate world, right? And so I totally hear you from that. I had the same experience. And so when you went onto your journey to build the confidence, right? And one of the other things you mentioned is that you joined this resume company, right? And they didn't know half the stuff that they should have known. Again, it almost feels like you were passionate about your role, right? You loved your role. You understood people. You understood how it all works. But to others, it's just a job. And that's the biggest difference.
It is. And that's okay. It's okay to just have a job, support your family, and do that. That's totally fine. But if you're listening to this podcast, that's probably not you, right? You're probably wanting to get somewhere else. So, yeah, there's small ways to build your confidence over time and upskill. So you don't have to go to the scariest thing right away. I actually just did this training for a group of entrepreneurs, and I talked about how I built my business using LinkedIn Lives and how it was scary at first. Like I did my first one last year. And I've been building my business consistently for about 3, but my first LinkedIn Live was last year. And I was like, my biggest weakness almost always with whatever it is that I'm pursuing is like tech issues. And like with a LinkedIn Live, there's going to be, you have to use technology. So I'm like, oh, well, I have this friend who's also a career coach for women. Like I asked her, and she's done lots of LinkedIn Lives. I've seen hers. So I asked her if she wants to, like, if she'd be willing to collaborate with me and mentor me through like just one LinkedIn Live. And she did. She did. And it was not nearly as scary.
Are you saying there was no competition or pushback?
It really wasn't. Like legitimately, my friend Shelly is the warmest, most amazingly supportive person I've ever met. She's a career coach for women as well. Like we have a kind of different niche. She doesn't do public speaking coaching. And she's trying to get into corporate training. I've already done corporate training, but like, yeah, we're kind of competitors in the market, but we're both just trying to expand our audiences. So yeah, why not do a joint LinkedIn Live where other people are going to see the other person? So She helped me with that. So it was scary, but like it was my first one. So I did a collaboration with her. All of my other LinkedIn Lives have also been collaborations.
Oh,
simply because I like having that conversation and dialogue on a LinkedIn Live. I feel like there's more energy going on, and there's so many more topics I can talk about. Like I've done some with a nurse practitioner about how to advocate for your health. I've done some like with like certain communication and overcoming the positivity bias we have towards doctors. I've done one on finding the confidence to promote yourself. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Your wardrobe and your success aligning. So many, like with the fashion consultants, so many different topics. And I just choose topics to light me up. But like it's just small little ways. And so, and I was like, I'll do one once a month. And now I'm doing at least either a speaking engagement, a LinkedIn Live, or like I'm a guest on a podcast at least once a week. So I'm doing some sort of speaking engagement once a week. So that's like, it's not necessarily like, it wasn't really a goal. It just kind of naturally happened because the energy that I get from other people and the expansion of my audience, like it's worth it. So I do things that bring me joy in my business. It's one of the things that my business coach is like, just that's not like the only piece of advice that she gives, but like if you do what brings you joy, then things are naturally going to manifest more things that other things bring you joy, more things.
Absolutely.
And so, and that's because other people are going to be attracted to similar people. So I'm attracting people who are positive, who are interested in public speaking, who have that energy and want to collaborate. So I have lots of that happening.
Right.
And because of that, I've been able to build my business faster. And because I'm doing things that bring me joy, it's naturally bringing that energy of clients that I actually want, right? Sometimes as entrepreneurs, we get clients that like, you're not really operating in the way that I really want to like work with. Like some people give a lot of pushback to coaches. Other people are really collaborative. Other people are just like passive and just take the advice. So there's just so many different type of personalities that you can work with. So if you're being who you really want to be, then you're going to attract the people who you want in your life. And I don't believe like fully in the law of manifestation. If you just believe hard enough, then things will just happen. But fear neurons in our brains are real things. So, people tend to act in a way that the other person is acting because you'll feel more comfortable that way. we're attracted to people who are similar to us. That's just basic bias. We feel
Yes.
safer with people who are like us. So,
So I've got a question for you.
One of the things that I've done to build my business is just small little steps, things that
Yes.
I'm a little bit uncomfortable with, but I made it a little bit easier for myself the first time.
Yeah. So you've already said, like, mentioned so many different ways where you can speak, right? There's so many different opportunities for people to actually speak. Because I always hear people saying, "Oh, I can't, I'm not getting on stages. I can't speak. I'm not talking. I'm not getting." Well, there's social media right there that they can get on. There's podcasts as well.
Yeah.
Now, getting on a live stage, like a big stadium, is a scary thing to do,
Right.
right? It's absolutely a scary thing to do. But getting on like a live Facebook Live or a LinkedIn Live and podcast is that easier step to take before you get to those live stages. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. It's such a good example. And you can it can just be you, or it can be you and multiple collaborators. You
Oh,
can
and
do
we're gonna
a small group.
look, we're totally gonna be collaborating on a LinkedIn Live, because guess what, Laurie, I've never done a LinkedIn Live either, so now you can teach me.
Amazing. I'm so excited for it.
I thought, oh, I've got that idea. Let's do it. You've done it with somebody. Let's do it, because I've never done it. So we're totally gonna have that done for sure. But so when people are looking to get out and speaking, right, you don't need to have those stages. Not even, you don't have to have those live stages. Just go on digital, go on social media, and get on podcasts and just start speaking.
Yep. 100%.
Now, when people are first starting out, and you're still going to be nervous, right? Because people don't like being on camera either. People don't like doing those social media lives, right? Because all of a sudden people are going to see them. What would be your piece of advice for that person that's absolutely nervous? They're scared. They're scared of being judged. That they don't know what they're going to say. It's going to come out wrong. What would you advise that person?
Practice. So if you know what you're going to be talking about, or if you don't, like, ask for 3 points or 3 questions that the podcast host might be asking, right? Prepare yourself as much as possible. That always will enable you to feel more comfortable. And then the other thing is just breathe. Your brain needs oxygen to be able to have your executive functions work well. So if you're nervous, you might be hyperventilating and you're not taking as deep breaths as you potentially could. So talk slowly. I don't mean like every single word or every sentence. Your prosody and your pacing should change throughout, but make sure that you're breathing. It's okay to talk slowly. In fact, talking slower communicates more authority because it communicates calm. If you watch Barack Obama, he talks very slowly, takes lots of pauses. It's one of the reasons why he sounds so authoritative. But just prepare yourself, keep calm, turn off the self view. If you're doing a video recording with someone, it's just distracting. So have yourself prepared, how you want to, present yourself, your background, your outfit, where your mic and camera is, whatever, and then just focus on what you're saying. Don't have it be all, don't hyper focus on what you look like. A lot of the time people are scared to get on camera because of how they look. So if you just like say, okay, I'm ready to go, I'm not going to pay attention to how like I'm looking, right, my appearance while I'm talking, then people are going to consume what it is I'm talking about. And if it's a podcast, someone's seeing you anyways. They're going to hear your voice. And I do advise I do advise eventually get a voice coach. I haven't quite yet. I really want to, because if you sound more authoritative, then people will see you as more authoritative. People will take your advice. You'll get more clients. So if you can control your voice, make it sound deep, a little bit deeper, start practicing your pacing. There's so many different aspects, and I'll share this with your VIP group. but there's so many different aspects of this like details of how to talk that can make or break what it is that you're saying sometimes.
Wow. I didn't even think about getting a voice coach. Like, I didn't even think that that would be a thing to do, right? But it makes complete sense now. You've kind of explained that your tone of voice will kind of either sell that product or service that you're selling on stage, or it won't, right? So it's highly important for sure. Now, I know, Laurie, at this stage, people are thinking, oh my God, I want to learn more from her, right? So if people want to connect with you, want to learn from you, where can they go?
I am mostly on LinkedIn. So connect with me there, search Laurie T. Potts, and you'll find me. And just connect with me on LinkedIn, and you'll see lots of posts and free content for me, those LinkedIn lives. So if there is a tip on that you are looking for on how to network, how to get your dream boss, because everyone wants that, right? How to get where you want to be in your career, present yourself with more confidence, be seen as the truly competent and capable entrepreneur or professional that you are, please connect with me. I'd love to talk with you. And I also offer corporate training, as Kay said earlier. So teaching interpersonal and public speaking skills to corporations. So if anyone's looking for those types of services, I'd love to have a conversation with you and see if it's a fit.
Fantastic. And guys, go ahead and find her on LinkedIn, right? Go and check out those videos that she does. Learn more and more from her, because it will make a difference for your business. Laurie, thank you so much for coming onto the show. It was amazing having you, and so much golden nuggets in such a small amount of time. Oh my goodness.
Thank you so much, Kay. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.